Treaty 6 land and that all of us are on treaty land right now. I want to honor the history of languages, ceremonies, and culture of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who call Turtle Island home. First Peoples' connection to the land teaches us about our inherent responsibility to protect and respect Mother Earth. With this acknowledge, we honor the ancestors and children who have been buried here, missing and murdered Indigenous women and men and Two-Spirit people, and the process of ongoing collective healing of all human beings. We are reminded that we are all treaty people and of the responsibility we have to one another. So, second thing is questions during the presentation. While this presentation is going to be hopefully informative, I'm sure there will be some questions. I ask that you keep your questions until the end of the presentation, at which point there will be a question and answer period, which, as Kelly said, won't be recorded. So because questions are being saved until the end, I recommend writing down any questions that you have that may come up during the session. And those questions that come up during the session may also be answered as the presentation goes on, but please feel free to ask again or ask for clarification during the question period at the end.
Ian, can I jump in real quick? I'm going to pause the recording just for a sec.
Hopefully that works out well. So some
Hey.
introductions. Some introductions of myself. I am Ian Brown. As Kai mentioned, I use he, him pronouns. I am a trans masculine human. I'm 25 years old. I'm in the Child and Youth Care program at McEwen University. I'm a person who used to wear a binder every day for like 5 or so years, and I am very passionate about people binding safely. I have a lot of feelings about it. So who else is here? We have our moderators, Kai, who uses they, them pronouns, Chase, who uses they, them pronouns, our mental health support, Christy, who uses she, her pronouns, and our lovely ISMIS staff member, Kelly, who uses she, her pronouns. So first thing is, what is a binder? A binder is a tight undershirt that helps to flatten the chest, and binders can be worn by anyone. A binder could also be thought of or compared to a tight sports bra. So why do people bind? So like I said, binders can be worn by anyone. Ultimately, the reason to bind your chest is to make it look flatter. And there are a lot of different reasons to do this. So cisgender men wear them for something called gynecomastia, which is swelling of breast tissue. And cisgender women may wear them just because they like the look. But the most common use is by transgender and non-binary individuals who want their chest to look flatter, to alleviate dysphoria, or to better align with how their body looks with how they want it to look. And some people also bind for doing costumes or cosplay, or like for doing drag as drag kings. So chest binding historically, it's not something new. People have been binding their chests for centuries. In the 1920s, like with flapper dresses and everything, women would bind their chests to move away from how women traditionally dress to look more modern. Some kimonos in Japan are thought to have been used in part to bind the chest using a part called the sarashi. And the 1910s through the 1970s, women in China would bind their chests as well. So it's really not anything new to our day and age or generation. What is safer binding? Safer binding is using methods of binding that are considered safer, like using a proper binder instead of wrapping a tensor bandage, and using best binding practices, such as not binding for more than 8 hours, not exercising in a binder, and remembering to take breaks from binding. All binding, unfortunately, comes with an inherent risk, but using safer binding methods and practices can help to reduce harm caused. Different ways to bind. We're going to be talking about a lot of different ways to bind, including wearing binders, taping, sports bras, tight undershirts, homemade binders, and wrapping. Wrapping has a little asterisk beside it because we're going to talk a little bit more about that one in a bit. So different kinds of binders. There are pullover binders, there are Velcro binders, there are hook and eyelet binders, there are zipper binders, and I'm also going to talk about moderate compression binders versus high compression binders. So the first one we have is a pullover binder. A pullover binder is just like a shirt, basically. It's a tight undershirt that you pull on, you put your arms through it, and then you put it over your head, and then just bring it down your body, kind of wiggle it down usually. It's the most common kind of binder that you'll see for sale in stores, and I also think it is the safest binder to wear. Velcro binders are a little bit different. They're Velcroed up on the side, so what you do is you put your arms through the armholes, and then you do up the Velcro on the side to keep it closed. Hook and eyelet binders are very similar to Velcro binders. The hooks and eyelets are similar to the ones you would find on a bra, and you hook you hook the hooks into the eyelets to get it closed, just like you do with a Velcro, similar to how you do with a Velcro binder. I'm not the biggest fan of hook and eyelet binders. I think they're a bit more unsafe than like a pullover binder, because some people have the tendency to try and tighten them more than is necessary, thinking that it will give them a flatter looking chest. But it doesn't necessarily do that, but it can be very dangerous. It can cause harm to your ribs by compressing them more, and it can make breathing very difficult because you're compressing the lungs more. So I don't necessarily recommend them, but they are important to know about, and sometimes people do prefer them, which is totally okay. Next one is zipper binders. Zipper binders are kind of like a jacket, basically. You just put your arms through and then you zip it up. Next one is strapless binders. So strapless binders are generally done up using hook and eyelet or Velcro to help keep them in place. So it does have to be done up a certain amount to keep it stayed in place. I have the same feelings about strapless binders with hook and eyelet and Velcro as I do about hook and eyelet and Velcro binders with straps, but I understand that like that can be really appealing because you can wear like a strapless dress, or you can wear a tank top or shirt with thinner straps on it. But always keeping in mind things like this is hook and eyelet or this is Velcro, so just be careful with it. High compression binders versus moderate compression binders. So on one side we see a black binder, which is a moderate compression binder from a company called Origami Customs. On the other side, we see a white binder, which is a binder from Underworks, and it actually offers very high compression. So it has more panels of fabric, and it allows the chest to be flattened more. That's the most common form of binder that you'll see, is a high compression binder, one that offers the most amount of compression over the chest to try and give it that flatter look. Whereas a moderate compression binder doesn't offer as much compression, and there's a lot of different reasons for this. For some people, it's a comfort thing. They don't want that much compression because it's really uncomfortable for them. Some people find that the compression can cause gastrointestinal issues such as nausea, or if you have irritated bowel syndrome, it can also affect that. And some people just prefer the look of moderate compression, which is totally cool. There's pros and cons to both of them, and important to look into it if you're looking to buy a binder. Putting on and taking off a binder. I missed a word there. It's okay. We'll live with it. So I have a little video for us to watch on putting on and taking off a pullover binder. Let's see how this goes.
Pullover binders are the most common style of binder, but can be tricky to get into because it's easy to get your arms trapped in it above your head like a weird tube. Getting your head and arms into the binder in steps helps to prevent this. Put your first arm through the first armhole up to the shoulder. Put your second arm through the second armhole up to the shoulder. Put your head through the head hole, pulling the front of the binder down first. Pull the binder down over your chest and back so that it isn't rolled up or bunched up anywhere on your body. Adjust the binder and your body as needed to make your chest look how you want it and to be as comfortable as possible in the binder. Taking the binder off. Grab the left bottom corner of your binder with your right hand. Grab the right bottom corner of your binder with your left hand. From this position, pull the binder up, over your head, and off of your body. Taking off the binder, style 2. Slide your dominant hand up the front of your binder to the opposite shoulder. Using the hand now underneath the binder, slide the shoulder strap off the shoulder and down onto the arm slightly. Using the hand still underneath the binder, stretch the armhole to allow the binder and arm to pass through the armhole by putting your hand into the armhole first, followed by the rest of the arm. Pull the binder up to your neck so that your arm is now free. Using both hands, stretch the binder's head hole around your head and pull the binder over your head. Finally, pull the binder off of the remaining arm. These are only 2 ways to take off a pullover binder, but everyone is going to find their own, best, most comfortable way to take their binder off.
Nope, don't play it again, please. So different brands of binders. There's a lot of different brands of binders. These are just a couple of them. So Underworks is the most common brand of binder that you will see. It's sold in a lot of different stores, and it does tend to be the cheapest binder. However, it was made by cis people for cisgender men with gynecomastia, which I mentioned earlier, being swelling breast tissue on cisgender men. It's not designed to be worn 8 hours a day or 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. It's not designed for compressing breast tissue in the amount that like I would be wearing it, and it's not designed for the body type. So it's not what I would consider to be the safest brand, but it is the most available brand, which is important to consider. GC2B and Flaunt brands, they're made by trans people for trans people. They have a much more comfortable type of fabric and shape overall, and they can be more comfortably worn all day, every day. I really wish they had been around when I was binding, and I'm very jealous of the people that get to wear them instead of Underworks. There's also Origami Customs, which is a cool organization company. They're out of Montreal, actually, and they offer the moderate compression, and you can also order custom sizes. They actually prefer that you take measurements and give them your measurements for the size so they can make it knowing that it's going to fit you properly. Shapeshifters is another company. They are out of the States, and they do custom sizes as well. You can buy some things pre-made from them, but for the majority of their orders, it is custom sizes. I will let you know they're not taking custom orders right now because COVID is complicating things, but in the future, they are an option and a resource. My Double Design is a brand out of Taiwan, I believe, and they sell all different varieties of binders. They sell Velcro, hook and eyelet, zipper, pullover. They sell swim binders and sport binders, which are a kind of binder that have more stretch to them. They have a lot of different options. Sometimes the sizes do run a bit smaller though than like Underworks or GC2B or Flaunt or such. So which brand is best? As shown before, there's a lot of different brands of binders, and every brand sells multiple styles. So it can be hard to tell which is best for someone, but reading reviews can really help to decide. And you can find reviews on YouTube or the binder websites or even on Facebook in local groups. There's a couple of really good websites for reviews that I'm actually including in a resource list that will be posted afterwards, and I highly recommend checking it out if you're looking to buy a binder. I do recommend avoiding buying binders off of places like eBay, Amazon, and Wish because it can be hard to know where exactly the binder is coming from and to get accurate reviews of them, and the craftsmanship can be inconsistent. However, I also want to recognize that these are often cheaper and more accessible because of that. So always practice safer binding practices, including when using a not so great binder, sometimes especially when using a not so great binder. Binding do's and don'ts. These are some of the biggest do's and don'ts that I thought about when making this. So do's, measure properly for your binder. The general rule is to measure across the chest where the nipple is and then under just where the breast tissue is, and add those 2 numbers together and then divide by 2. And that is your measurement either in centimeters or inches. Most paper measures in inches, but centimeters can work too. And so say like you add them together, you get like 60 and then 60 for them because math, and then you add it together, 120, you divide by 2, 60 again, so your measurement would be 60. And then you correlate that to the binder's measurements on the website. It's an extra large or something, and that would be your size. I also recommend bathing and exfoliating every day. When you're in your binder, you're sweating a lot and there's dead skin cells and oils getting caught up in there. This can cause much worse binder acne than is really necessary. So if you're bathing and exfoliating every day, that helps to reduce binder acne. Washing your binder regularly is also really important to help reduce that dead skin cells, oils, sweat, and help to reduce odors a lot, because odors can get trapped in the binder a lot, which is not ideal. We want to smell good generally. That's my opinion. And also stretching regularly while out of your binder. There's a lot of good different stretches for when you're in your binder and out of your binder to help make sure you're not getting too sore in your binder. I'm including another resource for that after the presentation as well. There's an Instagram account that lists a lot of really good stretches to do. As for don'ts, do not wear a binder that is too small. Some people will wear a smaller binder thinking it's going to compress tissue more. It doesn't compress the tissue more. It's not going to offer a flatter look, but it is going to be very dangerous. It's going to compress the ribs and the lungs, making it harder to breathe. And dangers with compressing the ribs too much are that they can malform or ribs can crack. There's a lot of other issues as well. Never sleep in a binder. Sleeping in a binder, your body breathes differently when you're asleep. It's trying to recuperate and restore itself from the day. If it's not being able to breathe properly, it's diminishing its ability to do that, and it's diminishing the health of your body. So whenever possible, you want to avoid that. You want to be like nice to yourself. Don't swim or exercise in a binder. There's a little asterisk beside this one because some alternatives are wearing like a swim or exercise binder, like I mentioned earlier, or I know a lot of people will wear a binder that's a size or two up to exercise in, because it's not offering that intense compression. It's still offering some compression and you can breathe better in it. Don't bind for more than 8 hours. This one is a bit of a weird rule because it's something I think we all just collectively agreed on as a trans community. I can't find a resource for it, a source for it anywhere, but it is a generally good rule of thumb. 8 hours is a very long time. And if you're like going to school for 8 hours and then you have to get to and from school as well, that's a lot of time. So options around that are doing things like taking binder breaks. So just going into the washroom and like pulling up the binder and like breathing for a couple minutes, or taking days off from binding where you use an alternative method, which we'll get into a little bit later. And not double binding is a big one. So never wearing two binders or even 3 binders I've seen, not good. That's way too much compression on your body and it can be very dangerous. The option with that where it is okay, that's where the little asterisk comes in, wearing multiple sports bras. Sports bras don't offer intense compression, so wearing 2 of them to help get that flattening effect, it's not going to be causing harm to you necessarily because it's not that much compression, but it is going to really help to flatten your chest. So that would be the only time where I think double binding can be okay. Taping. So taping is not the same as binding. You're not wrapping anything around your chest. You're not wrapping tape around your chest to flatten it. Tape is using tape to pull and hold the tissue to the side of the chest in order to make the chest appear flatter. And we have a little video for this one as well.
Step 1. Choose your tape. Trans tape or kinesthesiology KT tape are the most popular options that people use when binding with tape. Duct tape, sports tape, and any tape without stretch are not appropriate tapes to use. These tapes have no stretch to them, unlike trans tape and kinesthesiology tapes. The stretch is necessary because bodies and skin move. If you are bigger chested, you may want to get wider strips of tape, and if you are smaller chested, the thinner pieces of tape should be fine. Step 2. Prepare the skin. Be sure that your skin is free of any oils, moisturizers, and deodorant. You may need to shave hair if excessive, but a 1/4 inch trim is okay. Step 3. Protect the nips. Start by protecting your nipples and areola. You don't want to end up pulling super adhesive off of one of the most sensitive areas of your body. There are a variety of ways to create guards, like using gauze or toilet paper folded into squares covered by a piece of your tape or a large band-aid. You are essentially creating a barrier to be sure that the adhesive doesn't come into contact with your nips. Step 4. Prepare the tape. Cut your pieces of tape. You will need 2 to 3 pieces of tape for each side of your chest, approximately 5 inches in length. Round off the corners of your tape. This will help to prevent the tape pieces from curling and peeling off your skin. Step 5. Apply the first strip. Take your piece of tape and tear the first inch of backing off. Lay the exposed part of the tape on your skin just before the breast tissue starts on the lower half of the breast and lightly rub to activate the adhesive while pushing your breast tissue down and back with your hand as you apply the tape. Taking your time, line up your breast tissue so that it will all get tucked into the tape. Be sure that the tape lays as flat as possible without any wrinkles. It will wrinkle naturally after you are done taping, but this helps to prevent excess wrinkles. Finish laying the first full strip of tape across your side. Make sure you anchor both ends of the tape by gently rubbing to activate the adhesive. Step 6. Apply the second strip. Take your second strip and prepare it like the first. Apply the second strip staggered from the first and overlapping to create flatness. Again, push the tissue out of the way with your hand and secure the tape. Step 7. Secure the other side. Repeat this process on the other side. Throughout this process, keep in mind that comfort is the goal. Make sure you can breathe and move comfortably, and if you cannot, something was done incorrectly. Note that often, the tape will not stick to itself and will curl up easily if not attached to the skin properly. Be careful not to overstretch the tape when you apply it. Usually, the tape is already stretched on the paper backing, so an effective stretch can be achieved even when applying with zero tension. The tape should not be pulling the skin, just assisting it to stay in place. You should be hiding your chest comfortably on your body, such as under your armpit or down your torso, then using the tape to smooth out the appearance and secure it into place. Typically, the larger the area being taped, the less additional stretch is needed during application. Be aware that there may be some minor skin tearing around the edges of taping. If this occurs, treat with hydrocortisone cream or polysporin or other creams that will restore hydration to the skin. Step 8. Removal. After 3 to 5 days, the edges of your tape might start to peel and wear after multiple showers and activities. This is usually when it's time to remove the tape and retape your chest. It's highly recommended to remove by rubbing the tape with oil, such as olive oil, baby oil, or coconut oil, letting the oil sit for 5 to 10 minutes and removing slowly. This can be easier to do in the shower with the aid of the water, plus you can wash the oil off right away. Holding the skin tight will help with removing the tape.
One day I will figure out how to work these videos, but today might not be that day. So, alternative binding methods, because there are alternatives to just wearing sports bras and taping. The most common one, and I think one of the safest ones, is sports bras. So Hanes, which is a regular underwear brand, Underworks and Origami Customs, which are both binder brands that I mentioned before, make compression sports bras, which are basically just sports bras, but they offer a lot more compression, hence the name of compression sports bras. But a tight sports bra or 2 regular sports bras can work too. I don't recommend multiple tight sports bras because that's where you get into the area of having too much compression, especially on the elastic bands around the underbust. Let's go with that word. So tight undershirts can also be a really good option, such as rash guards that you might wear for swimming or exercising, tight tank tops, not unlike the one you saw in the videos, or cycling shirts, which are a kind of spandex usually. Homemade binders can also be a very good option. Methods can include sewing using a tensor bandage for the chest material. I wasn't able to find any good patterns or YouTube videos or anything for making binders, but I know they are out there somewhere, and if not, I encourage you to be the ones that invent them, because we could use that. Wrapping. Told you we'd get back to wrapping. Wrapping is not an okay method. Wrapping with tensor bandages, plastic wrap, or any kind of tape is not okay. Tensor bandages are designed to contract around something that is swelling, like a swollen ankle. Every time you breathe in when you're wearing a tensor bandage wrapped, your chest is swelling, so it's going to tighten more. And that's how you end up with cracked ribs or fractured ribs or a lot of damage to yourself. And that is not good. Plastic wrap and tape, when wrapped around you, most often people are wrapping it as tight as possible to get compression, but that's not leaving your body any room to breathe and move, which is, again, how you do damage like cracked ribs. Cracked ribs are really one of the most common things, and they're really unpleasant. So I recommend avoiding bad binding practices because it sucks. So where to get binders? Almost every binder brand is going to have its own online store. So GC2B, Flaunt, Origami Custom, Shapeshifters, Underworks, they all have their own stores. There's other binder brands that you can look up as well, and everyone has their own store where they sell at. Walmart has also started selling some binders online. I saw the Underworks brand online recently when I was looking, so that's an option as well if that's more affordable or more accessible for you. There's also local stores. Little Shop of Pleasures in Calgary sells them, and the Quilt Bag and the Traveling Tickle Trunk in Edmonton both sell different brands of binders. There's also binder exchange programs where you can get binders for free if you're not able to afford one. The Pride Center of Edmonton offers a binder exchange program where you can go in and try binders on depending on what sizes they have in stock. You can also get measured with a tape measure to see what your size is so you know what the proper size you're supposed to be wearing is. Point of Pride, Spot of Delight are both online binder exchange programs where people can donate their binders and then you can sign up to get one. And Uppercase Chase is a YouTuber who does a regular binder giveaway. Also, a little note about binder exchange programs. What they are is just someone who has a used binder that they've used. It's still in good condition. Maybe they've outgrown it or they've recently had surgery so they don't need their binders anymore. So they're passing it on to someone who can use it and maybe can't afford one. I think it's really great. When I stopped binding and got surgery, my chest binders were in such bad condition they could not be donated. But it's nice that other people can. And one of the best ones I've seen lately is Facebook, especially a lot of local 2S LGBTQ+ and trans and non-binary Facebook groups. If you're able to be part of them, people give away their binders on there before they go to other places. Sometimes people are able to give them away for free, or they might have to give it away for cost, but it's generally a much lower cost than you would be buying a brand new binder for. That was a bit of a tongue twister, too many B's. So there are options for getting different binders in a lot of different ways. Caring for binders. So there's three main things to think about when caring for binders, and that's washing them, drying them, and the breakdown of binders. So with washing them, you can hand wash them or you can machine wash them. That's totally okay. The important thing is washing them regularly. I recommend at least once a week. With drying, lay them out flat to dry. Don't hang it up because that can cause them to stretch out, and that's not what we want with a binder generally. And you can occasionally throw it in a dryer after washing, which helps to set the elastic back into shape. I don't understand how, but it does, and that's always nice. Breakdown is important to think about because over time, all forms of clothing do break down. That's just a natural thing about them, especially when you're wearing something every single day or every other day even. It's going to break down. You might notice minor tears in it or some elastics coming out in places. Keep your binder in as good as condition as you can, like treat it well, like washing it and drying it, and it's going to stand up longer, but it will start to break down eventually. Caring for you, because you're the most important part. Bathe every day that you wear a binder or as often as possible. You can also do wipe downs with baby wipes if showering isn't an option for whatever reason. Maybe it's dysphoria, maybe a shower isn't available to you, but getting rid of that oil, dead skin cells, sweat, all the stuff that's off you is really, really good for you. And exfoliate where you wear your binder when you are able to shower. That helps to remove the dead skin cells and oils, which are going to cause binder acne, especially if you're on testosterone or going through second puberty or even going through first puberty for some of you maybe. Your body is producing more of the oils and hormones and stuff that cause acne, so this helps to prevent the worst of the binder acne. Staying hydrated. So you sweat more when you're wearing a binder just because you have that extra layer on you. So staying hydrated is really important so you don't get dehydrated. Stretching regularly while you're out of your binder, including and also when you are in your binder, can help to relieve soreness. Taking binding breaks, like I mentioned before, where you just like take a couple minutes where you roll the binder up or you unzip it or you undo it on the side, and just giving your body time to breathe. And seeking medical attention when necessary is a really big one. So after taking your binder off, one thing that's really good to do is to give a few good coughs, leaning forward, not to the side. And that just helps to loosen up your upper body. It expands your lungs to full capacity and stretches between your ribs, which have been compressed all day. So this helps to get them back into their proper kind of working shape. Health effects. So daily health effects of binding include back, neck, rib, and chest pains, difficulty breathing even when not wearing a binder, bruised ribs, back and chest acne, especially if you're on testosterone, gastrointestinal problems such as nausea, numb patches, rashes, and fungal infections. And unfortunately, there aren't any long-term health studies on the effects of binding, but the anecdotal issues that I was able to come up with and ask people about are reduced skin elasticity, hunched posture, effects on the spine, chronic back, neck, rib, and chest pain, warped ribs, effects on breathing while not wearing a binder, loss of flexibility, scarring, fluid buildup in the lungs. And this particular rare case, which I found very horrifying, I was talking to a young person the other day, and they were telling me that they wore their binder for 3 days and 3 nights straight, and when they finally took it off, part of their nipple came off with it. If nothing else, I hope that this scares you into binding safely. They're okay, but like, please bind safely and don't wear your binder for 3 days straight. Pretty please. Binding and COVID-19, very timely topic. So there's really limited information about the relationship between binding and COVID-19, but the main recommendation is to avoid binding if you develop symptoms of COVID-19, as binding can actually worsen symptoms. Large amounts of coughing can lead to a buildup of fluid in the lungs, which can cause pneumonia, which is associated with COVID-19. And if you do need to stop binding due to symptoms of COVID-19, you can use some of the alternatives mentioned in the presentation so far, such as sports bras, taping, and layering clothes, especially because we're getting into winter right now and it's cold. Wearing those big, comfy hoodies that cover everything up, excellent choice. Frequently asked questions. I asked around a lot for this presentation, and here are the main ones that got brought up to me. So why aren't I 100% flat? First of all, no one's chest is 100% flat. Cisgender men's chests aren't 100% flat. My chest isn't 100% flat, and they removed all the breast tissue from it. Still not 100% flat. Your body, it's not supposed to be flat. That's not how bodies look. So it's okay that your chest isn't flat. That said, the reason it's not flat is because it's only compressing the tissue. It's not making it disappear. It's not going to make it go away. So the reality is that there is going to be a bit of a bump there, but that's okay. That's how bodies look, and it's okay that your body looks like that as well. And I promise you look excellent. Plus size binding. So I get a lot of questions about plus size binding, like, oh, where can I find a binder? Do any binder brands make larger size binders? And a lot of brands actually do make larger size binders. Underworks goes up to 4XL, and GC2P goes up to either 4 or 5XL. And then there are also options like Origami Customs or Shapeshifters, as I mentioned before, who do custom sizing, and they can make it to any size that you need. Stretches. So stretching is important both when in and out of your binder. And I have, like I mentioned before, a really good resource that I'm putting into the resource sheet that I'm going to be putting out afterwards. It's an Instagram channel that shows all about different stretches to do. It helps for like general posture and binding issues and a bunch of other stuff. So I think one of the biggest ones was actually how to position your chest tissue underneath a binder. And I found that really interesting because it took me a while to figure it out too. And the big thing is you want to be moving the tissue out from the center. So out, because otherwise if you push it in, things end up with like a weird uniboob effect, which is generally, I find, the opposite of what we're going for. And then either up or down, it generally gives a look of a pectoral muscle, honestly. And sometimes down is better, sometimes up is better. It really depends on what you prefer, what's most comfortable, what you like the look of best. And no matter what, it's good. You look good, I promise. I've seen it all. So why am I sore? Why are you sore? You're sore because you're compressing your body in a way that it's not meant to be compressed. It doesn't want to be compressed. Things are getting mushed up. Your spine is getting squished. The best way to avoid this is to do regular stretches when in and out of your binder and to give yourself binding breaks. That can include just like the short ones, but also longer ones like not binding for a day, taking the day off on a weekend or something if you can. And when should I go to the doctor? This one was actually brought up to me when I was doing a test run of this presentation because I mentioned it earlier, you know, if you have symptoms or if something's wrong, go to a doctor. I don't go to the doctor unless I'm almost in tears because of the pain. And sometimes I wish I had gone to the doctor with binding issues because there were things that could have been fixed a lot for me. A doctor, basically, if you are in pain and it's not being helped by like taking a day off binding or a couple of days off binding, go to a doctor because they might have things they can recommend for help. I want to recognize that not all doctors are knowledgeable about binding, and some might just recommend, oh, take the binder off, don't wear your binder. But that's not a real suggestion. That's reasonable to ask. In Edmonton, we have the Wellness Center now, which has trans knowledgeable doctors who will likely be able to give better answers and better suggestions. I'm not sure if there's anything like that in Calgary, but you can also go on to local Facebook groups and ask if they have any recommendations for trans-friendly doctors or trans-friendly clinics that will at least be more understanding, if not necessarily knowledgeable. And if you do need to stop binding, again, looking at those alternatives such as taping or sports bras or baggy your clothes just to hide things while your body recuperates for a little while can be really good options. So we have now come to the question and answer period. I have a couple more things to say, but we are getting up there in the question time. So please feel free to write your questions in the main chat or send questions privately to remain anonymous, or raise your hand on the Zoom feature and wait to be selected to have your question answered. Our moderators will be calling on people to have their questions asked with their microphone. And I will try to get to every question, hopefully in a fair order, but it's probably going to get a bit mixed up. So please be patient. We're doing our best. It's a weird time.
It is a weird time. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something quickly before questions.
Yes, I have two more things to say. One is the post-workshop chat. I'm going to be hanging out on the Discord server in the post-workshop chat B channel if anyone has more questions or wants to talk more once I'm done. And resources. So I mentioned a bunch of times that I have a resource sheet. It's going to be going in the GSA Programs Resources Events channel on Discord. So you can access it there. It's got a bunch of different links to different stores or different binder companies, different binder guides, taping guides. It includes links to both of the videos that I showed, which are on YouTube. So hopefully that will be useful to you as well.
Love it. Oh, thank you so much. Just so folks know, I am going to stop recording now.